All right, welcome back to our podcast. Today we'll be exploring the Bermuda Triangle of Asian media. So, we will each be giving a special lecture on a specific area of Asian media and also react to each other's lectures. So, stay tuned for that. But onto our weekly recap. Linda, how was your week?
I think the thing to note is that Sally gave me a new hairstyle this weekend. I mean, new hairstyle might be drastic because she just dyed the bottom half of my hair brown, but it's nice. It's definitely like the most dramatic thing I've dyed it because when I did it before, it didn't really turn out, but my hair is like brown on the end. It looks really nice. And what else? Oh, so I did a reunion internship with the people over the summer, and one person said they listened to our podcast, but only for the weekly update, and then they just skip everything else.
Oh,
And
I feel
people
like
actually
most of
listen
our
to these.
listeners do that.
Yeah, that's true. So I know, say I was like, I'm bashful, but I'm glad that you listened to it. So that was nice to chat earlier today, and okay, I think the other thing I want to bring up is that I've been playing Hades a lot. I got a new game for the
What's that?
Switch. It's like a fighting game kind of, but you're trying to you're the son of, oh my god, who's like that Greek
Wait,
god in the
Linda,
Wait,
huh?
Greek mythology?
Linda,
Yeah.
you're literally Stefan. He was obsessed with that game for like a good few months.
We are
Anyways,
one.
Wait,
I knew
maybe
I
I should
recognized
get
that
it
name.
too.
Ew,
Yeah.
oh no.
It's really fun. You should try it. Because I don't use my Switch for Animal Crossing anymore, but this is like, it gives me that rush. But you're the son of Hades, and you're trying to fight your way out of the underworld, and the story building is really nice, and the characters and the graphics are also really exciting to watch, and they basically show you around the whole underworld, and you get to talk to the different gods and goddesses, and you're like this kid who's like mad at his dad, so you get like a little bit of the character insight too.
How did you find the game? Like, where did you hear of it to play it?
So I saw a lot of animations on Twitter when they were working on the art, and it looked really nice. And there's this one scene where he's like brushing his hair
Oh my
back when he
god.
comes out of the blood, and it's like super iconic. And then the dude who did it, he's like I think a queer artist, and the title of the storyboard is literally like sexually brushing blood out of hair and rising from
Oh.
the underworld and stuff. So
Gosh.
I think the art starting out was already pretty good.
That's cool.
I'll definitely check that out. I've been looking for a new game to play because I'm bored.
COD isn't doing it anymore.
No, I'm
COD,
so bored
Animal
of COD.
Crossing, it's all dead.
On to new things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ming, you're next.
To new things. Yeah, I guess I would have to say my highlight was probably getting my bangs cut by Sally. Styled and cut by Sally Salon. Yeah, that's really all I have to update. It's kind of okay. I kind of understand what Linda is saying, where it kind of does change your personality because now I'm trying to do a middle part, and it's like I haven't had a middle part since I was an actual child. So this is like a whole new like identity. But I thought, yeah, I thought I was gonna be able to show it off at work over Zoom or whatever. But for some reason, I guess people like everyone canceled their meetings. Like even though we were working Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday before Thanksgiving, like everyone has canceled. Like even my one-on-one was canceled. So I have no one to show it off to. My mom didn't even notice. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've been up to. I'm getting back into a new book to read, so maybe I'll talk about that later. But yeah, I'm looking forward to eating on Thursday, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Okay, I guess I'm next. Same as Ming, I'm looking forward for our break because I really need a break from work. And yeah, I'm so excited to have 2 extra days off on my weekends this week. But for my weekly update, so last week when we talked with Liz, I was activated by Ming and Liz because I heard both of them are going to Chinese school. I mean, I knew Ming was going to Chinese school, but I heard Liz was also going to Chinese school. So then I was like, maybe I need to start improving my Chinese too. So then I looked into like Chinese classes around like the area or like online. Had no luck in finding, because I looked specifically for Cantonese classes. I had no luck. So then I looked into this website. It's called like Canto Lounge, and they wrote this whole article about like Cantonese resources for I think it's for non-Mandarin speakers or something like that. But anyways, it was like a long list of like media resources that I could use to kind of improve my Cantonese. And I found this podcast called DIU or DIU podcast. And it's like, it stands for Daily Issues Uncovered. But anyways, it has this corner, it's like Cantonese corner of the podcast where I guess they kind of just talk about like certain topics in Cantonese. And I mean, like, I already know how to speak Cantonese, but it's just nice to like hear people use it in conversation. And they also have this corner about Chinese idiom or Cantonese idioms, which are really interesting to me because like Cantonese has a lot of like weird idioms that when you translate it to English, it doesn't make any sense. But then it's like random animals and like random words put together, but then in Cantonese it makes sense for some reason. So that's fun to listen to. And then I also started this really good Chinese drama, which is not Cantonese, it's in Mandarin, but it's just like historical drama called The Untamed. It was aired last year. And I told Ming and Linda about this already, but I'm like really into it now. Like, I'll talk more about
than
it.
Startup?
Okay, not more than Start. Probably on the equal level as Startup.
Oh, wow.
I really like this drama because I don't have to wait. I can like binge the episodes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it has a lot of episodes. I think 50 episodes. So I've got a long way to go, but it's really good so far. And I like it's been a while since I watched a drama that's set in like historical age, so it's fun to see that too.
Maybe I'll pick it up and start watching it after I finish my Peppa Pig.
Yeah. I thought I would learn more Chinese by watching it, but it's kind of hard because the people talk in like historical Chinese, which is really different from what you say now. So
Yeah,
but it's still fun to watch.
When I was trying to look for stuff to watch to like learn or like just hear it more Chinese, like Mandarin, they said that like historical drama is like the highest difficulty because they use a bunch of like flowery language. And then they were like suggesting like, oh, depending on what level you are, you can watch this, or this on Netflix. And I can't watch any of it. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Is the entire
I've been struggling like because I want to learn, like I want to train my ear to learn or like listen to the Chinese, but then at the same time I have to read the subtitles, but then the subtitles don't always like correspond word to word to what they're saying, so then like having cognitive dissonance while watching this drama. But it's fine.
It's fine. I mean, culturally it's still fun to see like what it was like back then.
This is the start of our BerMEDIA Triangle of Asian media exploration. And I'm the first to talk. So my topic is all about Asian films and TV series. So just a little intro into why I want to talk about Asian films and TV series is back in episode 9 of our podcast, in our To All the Asians on Screen episode. This is all the way at the beginning of the year when the Academy Awards were just happening. We talked about how proud we were for all the Asian representation on screen, and specifically about Parasite's like record-breaking win as the first non-English language film in Oscars history. So in that episode, I talked about how I was like impressed by the film Parasite, but I wasn't like, my mind wasn't blown by it because I had been exposed to so many great like productions from the Asian film industry before. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to share all of my favorite films and TV series, specifically East Asian films, because that's just what I've been consuming so far. And in the words of the great director Bong Joon-ho, I think he said this. He said the barrier. He said the barrier for consuming non-English media is just the 1 centimeter tall subtitles. So, anyways, basically with subtitles, you can enjoy any type of media. There's no limitations. So, yeah. So I guess the form of media that I guess specific form of media that I've have the most experience in is K-dramas, of course. So this would be a very exhaustive list of K-dramas and a very small list of other kind of media, other language medias. But let me give you the breakdown of all my favorite K-dramas. So we have several genres, mainstream, which is like the most popular K-dramas that just like everyone in general liked. And then I have some that fall into fantasy, which is like supernatural, ghosts, spirits, mythical creatures stuff. And then I have a youth segment, which is like, I guess they're still like students in school or college and talking about like coming of age themes. So we'll get more into that later. I might add some more if I have time. But to start off with the mainstream dramas, my top recommendation, which is also like probably a drama everyone has already seen if you're into K-dramas, but Crash Landing on You, of course.
Yes.
I think it was a really good drama because it had the typical K-drama tropes where, I don't know, like the rich CEO meets like a normal person that's not rich. But it was really cool to see like all the culture of North Koreans, because I feel like it's not really covered in media. I mean, no one really knows how North Koreans are living. No one really travels there. So it was really cool. I don't know how accurate it is. Like I've seen some reviews on YouTube where it's like a North Korean defector reviewing how accurate the portrayal of North Koreans in this drama was. And so the producers of the drama also they also consulted actual North Korean defectors in the production of this drama to try to make it more accurate. So stuff like details like North Koreans wearing that pin, the red pin, and like I guess like having electricity outages and stuff like that. That part was pretty, according to them, it was pretty accurate. So that was cool. It was like really interesting to see the Ri Jung-hyuk. It was like interesting to see him cooking in that like really ancient cookware. Like he was like what was he like when he was making coffee and like cutting the noodles by hand and stuff like that. That was really cool. But yeah, in general, it was a good story and had a little bit of everything. Like it had suspense, had romance, had comedy. So yeah, it was a well-rounded drama for me.
What would you rate it?
Oh, my rating.
You have to set up
I
a
think
rating
I would
system.
do 9 out of 10. Yeah, I feel like it's hard to give it 10
what is
out
it
of 10.
missing? Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like it's hard to give it.
She wants to reserve
10
it.
out of 10.
She's got to reserve that extra.
I'll reserve it for my favorite drama. Which
will be let's hear it.
No, it's at the end. Okay. The next okay, I'll just go into the next category, which is fantasy. So this is also a very popular genre in K-dramas because they have a lot of legends and like I guess people really like also hearing stories about like ghosts and spirits, like what people do in their afterlife, stuff like that. So I'm gonna have to give 2 recommendations for this category because I have 2 that I really like. So the first one is Goblin, which is also like a pretty mainstream drama. A lot of people liked it. It's about this guy who he's like basically he's a goblin, so he's like he doesn't age. So he's been here since like the ancient times, and has this like duty, or I don't know, I forgot. He like committed this crime and then he was punished by having to do some spiritual work, or like collect the spirits or something like that. And then his friend, the Grim Reaper, I love their like the dynamic between the Grim Reaper and the Goblin is really fun to watch, and they're all like kind of old ajushis, like they're around their 40s or late 30s, like the actors, but they still give such a fun and like comedic and comedic vibe to the drama. I don't know. But yeah, it's really fun. It's a like same thing as Crash Landing on You. It was like a well-rounded drama where it has suspense, romance, comedy, everything. It's got it. And the chemistry between the actors, not just romantic chemistry, was really good. So highly recommend it. The next one that also falls into fantasy is Hotel de Luna. So this one also has to do with like spirits. And it's basically, I guess the theme is that like whenever you have a fantasy drama, there's always some person who's been on Earth for like a very long time. So in this case, it's the girl. She's like this owner of this hotel for spirits that are about to pass over into the afterlife. So like, I guess spirits of people who just died, they stay and like resolve their last regrets, or just like resolve their last regrets and conflicts in this hotel. And she kind of helps them out, she has like special powers to grant their wishes, but she's also like kind of capitalistic, so she wants their money in return for helping them. And like she's so the female lead is IU. She's just really popular. Yeah, she's really popular, and I really like her. She's a good actress, and her chemistry with the male lead was also pretty good. And the male lead is like a normal human who got ropes into helping her out because of this incident when he was younger. And basically he's like the manager. He becomes like the manager of the hotel because he's the only person who can do like human things for the hotel, like I don't know, like financial things for the bank or whatever, or like meeting with other humans, stuff like that. So and then the two like fall in love eventually, and then it's a sad ending because the girl has to leave because she's not actually like supposed to be here, because her real like human life was a long time ago, and like it's past the years, whatever. Okay, on to the next
Wait, let's react to this. Okay, I heard
what is your reaction?
Hotel de Luna was very visually appealing. Like their outfits are very elaborate.
The female lead had a different outfit for literally every scene, but it was very like cinematographically, it was very like beautiful and pleasing to watch. And because it's also like a fantasy, like fantasy kind of thing,
the CGI
like setting. Yeah, like the hotel was really pretty, and like when they're flashing back to like the olden times, like that stuff was pretty I don't know, it was like well shot and like
high production value.
High production. Okay, the next genre I have is youth dramas, which is my favorite genre, honestly, because I really like these dramas that like make you feel good after you watch them. Like I like suspense and like crime and all that, but I can only watch so much. Like I need the youth drama, the happiness and like bubbly feeling. I don't know. So make me like, that really gets me into a drama. So the first one I'm gonna recommend is both of these actually are like my top K-dramas of all time. So the first one, you already know.
Wow.
I know it.
What is it, Linda?
Weightlifting Fairy.
Yes. Weightlifting Fairy, Kim Bok-joo is my favorite of all time. Like, I think that's also why I was so into Body Pump, because I was like, I'm Weightlifting Fairy.
Actually.
But it's basically a sports drama about the main character. The girl is a weightlifter in college, I think, and she's trying to get, like everyone in college is trying to get into the national team. And then the male lead is a swimmer. And the two like met in the past, and then they meet again in college, and they have like a really fun dynamic, I think. And okay, the female lead, it's like, I'm glad that she like rose throughout the drama, because at the beginning of the drama she liked the guy's brother and he was not it.
Oh, he was a doctor, right?
Yeah, the doctor. Yeah, I don't know why. she was just like very into him because I guess of his superficialness, like his money. I don't know, like being smart and like nice. Okay, that's not
I think it's because
superficial, but
he was cute.
Yeah,
like,
come on.
yeah,
she
he
didn't
was
know
cute
anything.
to her, but he was not cute to me.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, it was also like a lot about character development because you can see like her relationship with her family, especially her dad, who's like a single parent. You can see it like change throughout the series, and she also like her relationship with the sport too changes throughout the series. There's this time when she goes into a slump and kind of questions like why she's even doing weightlifting. So it's like a coming of age
Relatable.
story. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Do you have any reactions to this?
Wait, I have a question because I guess out of us three, I'm the newest to K-dramas. I've only watched a few, but how, I don't know if you'll get to this later, but are all of the ones that you've watched, do they all have some type of romantic like plot or subplot? Like, is that like just a thing
Yeah.
in the K-drama
Like
I
universe?
think
rom-coms.
it is a very universal thing in K dramas because I mean it's something everyone can relate to because everyone is like everyone would be interested in romance, I think. But there are some that I've watched that don't have any romance at all, but I didn't. My list is too long to include them, so I only included my top ones. But there are some really good ones that don't have romance as the main theme.
Okay, just
But
curious.
yeah. Okay, my last one for K dramas is Replying 1988. And this is a really interesting K drama. Actually, it's a whole series. So there's Replying 1997, 1988, and 1994. But 1988 holds a special place in my heart because um just because of the dynamics between the characters. So in all of them, there's this common theme of like family, and there's always like a friend group that the story surrounds. But in this one, I think the chemistry between the friend group was really good, and each person in the friend group really had their own story and develop character development, which I really liked. But I did not like the ending. So basically, it's like the typical K-drama trope where the girl has like two options and everyone's like rooting for like either this like guy A or guy B. And everyone is rooting for this one guy, but then she ended up with the other guy. So I was very upset, but it was a good drama overall because like weightlifting fairy Kim Ju, you could see her growth because the story starts when she's a high school student, and she has like she fights with her sister a lot, fights with her parents a lot, and then you can see as she matures, she like kind of like understands what her family's doing for her, and like basically she matures and becomes a beautiful young woman.
Oh.
And then the story ends with her like after as like like ends when she has like a job and like is settled down and like successful, and basically it follows her youth. So it was really
Well,
warm drama to watch. Very family friendly, and yeah, it was funny too.
yeah, I feel like most K-dramas, or at least the ones I've watched, are like all what Americans would consider like family friendly. Like
Yeah.
even when they hold hands, it's like such a big deal, which I think is really
Yeah, but you're like so
warm.
emotionally invested that if they do like a small peck, you're like
Yeah,
going
yeah.
wild. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. In Reply 1988, okay, not to give too much spoilers, but like the height of the drama was like, or for me, the height, it wasn't even really the height of the drama, but it was like even near the beginning, actually. The girl and the guy that I was shipping her with, they were like on this field trip, and they're running away from like some administrator for the school because they like broke some rule, and they were like face to face next to each other in this back alleyway, and then they were just staring at each other. They weren't even touching, but that like made my heart thump. So yeah, it's a special feeling, I guess. But I sent this TikTok. I don't know if you guys saw it, but
Oh, yeah,
about
I
like
saw
the
it, I think.
American dramas versus Korean dramas. Like American dramas. So for the American dramas, the person was like, they'll be having sex on the first episode, and then you'll just be like scrolling on your phone, like yawning. And then for K-dramas, they'll like hold hands on like the last episode, and you're like crying with them.
I mean,
yeah,
that's not wrong.
that sums
I
it
don't
up.
know I don't understand how they do it, but like the way that maybe because they like just really drag it out, and like the
Mhm.
suspense and they build up the character so much that you become so invested. Like I think
Yeah.
they're really good at making you really invested, not even in like the main characters, but I feel like a lot of times my favorite characters in the few that I watch are like the side characters or like the funny friends. Like I don't know, there's character
Mhm.
development like everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in Kpop, the friends are really good.
Mhm.
Like the two friends of the main girl. But also, there's like other stuff that happens, like they're in the hospital or like they get amnesia. So there's like other
Yeah.
things to get your heart racing.
I think, yeah, like what Ming said, what makes a good K-drama is not just the main leads, but also the story as a whole. Like everyone else's storyline also has to contribute to the story, I guess.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's where some dramas fall short as well.
Oh.
But anyways, onto I have two miscellaneous dramas. So these are not Korean dramas. I just wanted to give some like other types of dramas out there. So the first one is actually a Netflix series. Well, both of them are a Netflix series, but it's a British series, but it features Japanese main characters. So it's called Giri Haji. I don't know if you've seen it on Netflix. It was on the top page for a while, I think last year. But it's basically about this guy. It's kind of dark. It's like a dark crime drama, kind of like mystery, something like that.
Mhm.
But it's about this guy who's a detective in Tokyo, and he goes to London to search for his brother, who like everyone thought he was dead, but his brother he like ran away to Tokyo because he murdered like this nephew of this yakuza. So it deals into like the Japanese yakuza and also London like criminals. So basically he goes to London and he tries to find his brother, and then he also like learns about all the like dark crimes of like the, I don't know, like the London crime world. But he meets it's it's kind of dark, honestly. Like there isn't that much comedy, which is why I did not finish it. But I think if you're into it, I think if you're into this kind of stuff, you would like it. Um, but he like makes friends with like police in London, and he also meets this sex worker who interestingly the sex worker helps him to find more connections to search for his brother. And then I like this drama because it also, well, it's not a drama. I guess like a TV series. I liked it because it also followed the story of his daughter who went with him to London, because in Tokyo um she was kind of like a recluse, and she was like rebellious. But then once she moved to London, she kind of like opened herself up, and she hung out more with the sex worker who kind of introduced her to like kind of taught her how to have fun, I guess. And she like explored herself because she had all the free time, like while her dad was like doing detective stuff. She would like explore London with the sex worker friend, and yeah, she like met other people. And like also, so there's also that kind of like character development there too. And yeah, it was a dark series.
Was it in Japanese or English?
So I think it was half and half, because when the guy was talking to his family members, they're talking in Japanese, but then when they talk to people in London, they're speaking English.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, and also an interesting thing that this drama talked about is like the burden of, I guess, taking care of your like the aging family as well as like the younger family at the same time. So like while his daughter is having problems in school, like back in Tokyo, his daughter's having problems in school, but at the same time like his parents were getting old, and his father actually was like slowly dying because of I don't know. He was a smoker, so he was coughing all the time. And then while he was in London, his like father passed away, and then he was having pressure from his mom and his wife to like come back to Tokyo and not search for his brother. So it's like this balance of like caring for both like spectra of the family. I don't know. It was interesting to see. Okay, the last series is the one I'm watching now. It's called The Untamed, like I said in the opening, but it's again another supernatural series where it talks about and so it follows the adventures of these two soul cultivator people. So basically there's like these people it's set in China, but there's like these major families, I think like 5 major families, and there's like these soul cultivator people who have like spiritual powers to kind of cleanse evil spirits away from people. And yeah, basically they just have magical powers. And it follows the adventure of these 2 guys who like who travel around China to solve a series of mysteries that link to a tragic event in the past. This is from Wikipedia. While the original so an interesting thing about this drama is it's based off of a web novel, and the web novel like has this like explicit romance between the 2 male main characters, but then the adaptation in this like film or in this TV show adaptation, it was censored, but it still has like homoerotic subtext. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't finished the series, so I'm not sure like
I mean, do you
what's gonna
see it
become of
already?
it, but I see it. And I mean the 2 main characters are cute together. Like so okay, it's like they're like a balancing act because one of the main characters is like very social and outgoing extrovert. He's like friends with everyone, and he's like very curious about the other main character, I guess. I don't know why, but he's like always had an interest, like not like platonically at first, I guess, in him. And then the other male lead is like super quiet, like he says 4 words per episode.
Oh wow.
Tinder.
He's like he has no expression on his face, but also he cares about the other male lead, like secretly or like, quietly cares for him. So it's like it's cute to see them together because like the dynamic between the 2 is funny. Yeah, that's all I got.
So that one's a 10 out of 10. Wait.
Well, I haven't finished yet,
Okju was
so I
10 out of
don't
10.
know. But honestly, the beginning, I was a little bit unsure about this series because the timeline was kind of weird. It talks about what happened in what's happening. Or okay, so it goes to the present, I guess, and then it jumps back to the past after like 4 episodes. So like, I've been in the past for a long time, like most of the series, but the beginning starts off set in like a time that's like in the future of what I'm watching right now. So like I was very confused when I started the series, and because they didn't like really introduce the 2 characters, like they didn't say how they knew each other, and they acted like they didn't know each other at first. I was like, what is going on? But then now that they're saying the backstory, I'm like getting more into it. So I don't know. It's a weird timeline.
I don't know if that's a general theme, or like I don't know if I can generalize that of Asian dramas or media, but that is something that is again noticeable about like I guess Korean drama, because that's all I have to reference. But they do a lot of like jumps or like flashbacks, or but they do it in a way that it's not like
jarring to see.
Yeah, it's not jarring, or it's not like all dramatic and like flashback. It's just like kind of like they show the past and they switch back pretty easily. And then another thing that I liked is that how they show things from like different angles, or like a lot of times the end scene of one episode will be super dramatic and something will happen, and then in the next episode at the beginning they'll show it but from like someone else's perspective, or like from a different camera angle, and
it's not dramatic at all.
Yeah, and it took me a while to get used to that, but like I really like that about it. Or they always have like after the credits they have like an additional scene that adds
like startup.
Yeah, like I don't know, it's like all these little tidbits that make it a lot better, I guess.
Like little bonuses.
Good list, Sally.
I
Good
think
list.
anime has that too. Like they have OVAs a lot.
Yeah. Oh, like the
Like original video animations, I think. Like extra episodes.
yeah.
Mm.
I think it's very common in both dramas and anime to do flashbacks too, and have like extensive flashbacks where the past really like plays into who they are as in the
Mhm.
present.
Yeah. Or there's always like some person from their past that like comes back and it's like full circle. And well, I love those like little nuggets.
Why
Like a
can't
red
real life
string
be
of
like
fate.
that?
Yeah. I guess to conclude your talk, how many you said you watched a lot of dramas. How many, I guess we could just say K-dramas. How many K-dramas do you think you watched like in your lifetime? If you
My
had to
gosh.
guess.
If I had to guess, probably over 100, but
Wow.
honestly, I don't know because I have a lot that I started or like I watched them halfway through and I never finished. But there's still like I think I've seen the majority of the popular ones. So starting from when I was a high school teen up until now.
We should put your
Keeping up.
whole list on our website. So it's
My whole list. Oh
rated
my gosh.
by Sally.
Oh, the appendix.
Yeah.
Maybe if I can compile it.
Mm.
Okay.
Linda?
This is such a hard transition. Okay. So I think my thing relates to Sally, and that is still talking about, I guess, K culture. I guess the Hallyu wave, or I think that's what it's called, because you can't like understate the, I guess, prevalence of K-pop, K-dramas in our society today. So I'm going to talk about my paper, which was recently published. It's a study on LGBTQ Asian American K-pop fans and how they interact with the media and how they interact with the fandom. And wait, let me pull it up. Sally got me all excited talking about K-dramas that I completely lost where
You have to pivot.
my thing went. Yeah.
Pivot your thoughts.
So basically, I started this study 3 years ago, but as Ming pointed out, I think on my Instagram, I was thinking about doing this since high school, or I've had a feeling that it was always so interesting why there are so many queer Asian American fans of K-pop or queer elements in K-pop, and it's like this new phenomenon that I wanted to explore further, especially when I was kind of exploring more in terms of gender and sexuality and identity during like high school and early college. So I started this study, I think, February of freshman year. So it's been a good 3 years, and it got published, I think, 2 weeks ago. So it's a huge chunk of time, I think. I mean, a long time I was just waiting for the results, but it's just like cool to see it come out. So I think I went over the premise a little bit that K-pop is increasingly popular in Western media and also within our social circles and in media. So I wanted to investigate that and hopefully document what this phenomenon is and what people were feeling about it, because I think the voices of fans are kind of understated, especially in academic study. So it was a way to bring them to light and also maybe validate them to other people who may relate. So, blah, blah, blah. Hang on. Okay, so I wanted to focus on studying the representation and reception of this demographic to further understand identity development and risk factors in terms of mental health and just being a feeling of belonging in general as a marginalized population, and protective mechanisms and resilience as it relates to the media. So K-pop has the potential to become a distinctive meaning-making platform for Asian Americans, especially as it stands on in the middle between the Asianness, like that whole I guess motherland type thing, and its connection to American elements. So it's kind of a hybridized media. And a lot of Asian Americans in previous research see cultural closeness through K-pop because it's a digestible way to consume Asian culture because it's so widely available on YouTube and social media. And once you get into it, you can watch things that have subtitles and you get to kind of take a peek through the culture in that way. And also I guess the queer elements come in a variety of ways, but the main way it stands out is through the behavior and appearance of male K-pop idols because they have all these feminine elements, like they wear makeup, they sometimes wear like flowy clothing or feminine clothing, and some of their behaviors are not like super like white masculine. Yeah. But in K-pop and in that world, they're valued for that kind of feminine behavior, and then they're seen as masculine because of it and not despite of it. And it was cool to see that representation of men being valued for those types of characteristics in a way that we don't really see in Western media. So that was kind of the introduction to the intersections of Asian American identity and queer identity in K-pop. But as we know, the industry is super problematic, and while K-pop itself can't inherently be a sort of queer feminist or progressive space, it can serve as a platform for fans to explore their desires and identities, and they can process and kind of reorient the media for themselves in a transformative way. Okay. Oh, Sally, can you edit all these pauses?
Oh no, it adds character.
Okay. I don't know how much time I have, so I'll just skip to the conclusion.
Already? I think you have more time than you think.
Yeah. Oh, so the methodology is we interviewed 16 different LGBTQ Asian American K-pop fans, and there was a large variety of identities because even though these characteristics are pretty specific, and we also did a survey that you had to be familiar with K-pop and not just like interacting with it on a passing level. So these people were like identified as fans themselves, and we did like interviews with them over the phone or in person, and then we coded these interviews through something called grounded theory, which the premise is that the results are grounded in the experiences of the participants. So we want to keep our findings as close to the real experiences of people as possible. So if you see through my results, we keep quotes directly from the people that we interviewed to kind of exemplify the ideas presented and maintain their voice and integrity throughout the data coding process. So I had a couple people to help me code things, and we did them together over the course of a year, and it was a super long time because I had to transcribe everything, and that takes a million years to do with 16 hours of interviews. So qualitative study is like a whole process, but I think it's super worth it in the end because you can see the different I guess connections form through people's stories, and you get to kind of piece it together from a high perspective that you have. So from the results that emerged, there was a few different categories that we broke them down into. So it was social support through K-pop fandom as a community. And then people talked about how representations of queer and Asian American identity can be problematic in K-pop. And this is kind of like queer baiting or unhealthy body image. And also how, I guess, exploitative the industry is in general, and how it kind of exploits fans by putting forth like a queer image for the for the shock factor or for the popularity, and it's not genuine. So the fact that the participants brought this up kind of showed how grounded they were in the realities of being a marginalized population, and they want substantial support for these communities. So even though fandom is a way to kind of reflect these images and make it their own, we still need like material and tangible support as well. So that was one theme that came up. And then the last theme is fan labor as agency, or how fans can kind of take these representations or the canon presented to them and use it to write their own stories or process their own emotions. Okay, and a lot of people talked about how inspiring it was to see K-pop media because it inspired them to, I think, work harder in a way that wasn't problematic. Because, you know, the model minority myth is that Asian Americans are supposed to be super successful, but if you see K-pop idols being successful or working hard in their dreams, it kind of motivates you to do the same. But it isn't that you can be a model minority, it's so you can be, you know, popular and well-liked as some kind of celebrity or someone that people look up to. So it was an alternate way of representation as well, and people said it was cool to see how Asian people could be cool in K-pop as opposed to like in Western media where Asian people are like nerds or some kind of stereotype. And then I think the other main finding was that gender non-conforming participants said that the aesthetics of male K-pop idols kind of inspired them to have their own style because they were able to provide things like makeup or like fashion inspiration, and people who were kind of like struggling with how to present gender wise could take some, I guess, inspiration or like a mood board from people from K-pop idol stages or how they dress and things like that, because you couldn't really see another I think Asian American person who had the same kind of style. So it was a widely available type of aesthetic to draw from and to feel more confident in. I think we talked about social support, that it was cool to have fandom be a place because there's so many other queer Asian Americans in it, so you could kind of network and find that support through this affinity space because you already have something in common, so it's easy to talk and relate to others. And since it's mostly online, people felt safer because there was a degree of anonymity to share more about each other, and people drew connections between being an anime fan and being a K-pop fan, both communities which were largely represented online. And it's like a place of escapism in both being involved in the media and in also being involved in an online community where you can escape to somewhere else or escape to be a person you couldn't be in real life. What else?
I have questions. If you're,
Yes.
or is your speech conclude? Wait, is speech your talk concluded?
Any more findings?
I don't want to interrupt, but I have questions.
Okay. I feel like I don't have much else to say, but yes, questions are open.
Okay, I was trying to remember them while you were talking because I didn't want to interrupt because you were on a flow, but
You could have interrupted. I was struggling to find out what to say.
well, I thought you were like going through your paper, kind of like, I know we've all written like scientific papers, so like going through like the methodology, the introduction, you know, conclusion, all that.
Yeah.
I guess I have so many questions. Okay, my first question is, you said towards the beginning how the male K-pop's like style, K-pop stars style and wardrobe and everything like that, like to a Western audience would appear feminine. and so people saw that as like as inspiration, or like you said, a mood board. And you said how like, did you say how in Korea or in Asia that is seen as like masculine? I don't remember what you said, but my
He said
question
it's like they're masculine because of it, not
because of that.
despite of it.
Yeah. So my question was, is that unique, or like is that isolated just to K-pop or just to Asian entertainment, or is flowy outfits and I don't know, men wearing facial makeup, is that accepted in like non-entertainment realms, like in just everyday space, or is it because they're K-pop stars and they're famous and they've made this look famous that that's why it's acceptable and seen as masculine now? You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, that's a good question. Since I think K-pop is a huge industry that they're influencers, so they can influence the greater population to. I think there was this one thing that happened where Korean men got super into skincare because K-pop idols were doing all these deals and like making it more popular. But I think from our perspective, since Asian American men are like demasculinized, or I don't like, what is the actual word?
they're
Or like
feminized,
feminized, that it seems more feminine to us to see Asian men, because if you look at not just in K-pop industry, where in period dramas where they wear like robes and they have long hair and things like that, is not traditionally like Western white masculine characteristics come up. So I think from our like Western view, they seem feminine no matter what. But it is a good point that from the entertainment way, it's like a very specific subset of Asian men, because they're young, they're attractive, they're like picked out of the population to kind of stand out on stage. So it's definitely specific to the entertainment realm, but as like influencers with a huge engagement, there's some degree of influence.
that makes sense. Yeah, I guess I was asking more of like, I guess like the chicken or the egg, like which came first kind of thing. But yeah, that makes sense that of course if you're popular in the media, you're going to be influencing it. That's how it happens around the world. So thanks. I don't remember my other questions, so Sally, if you have other questions or anything.
I guess I don't have specific questions. I think everything you said makes sense. I liked your connection of how like what they give you, like what the K-pop stars, I guess, give you, which is like canon. People can make and like add on to it and like write their own stories based off of that. And but I do see a lot of like what you said, like with the queer baiting, it's like a really big thing. Probably getting more of a thing now. Ming, do you have something to add?
That just reminded me of my question. It's related to
Yeah.
queer baiting. That reminded me of my question. Okay. Keep going.
Okay, I guess I'll finish my thought. So yeah, I think it's becoming more of a thing now too, because I guess people are seeing, or the companies are seeing that it's successful in like baiting people, so they're probably like it's probably more widely used as like a quote unquote marketing scheme now. But there is like, I think also because of the like all the dating bans in like the industry, they have like there's no like there's nothing for them, there's no like material for them to work off of if they have like romantic interests, but they like feed off of romantic interests of girls. So they like in the music videos and like I don't know, like their contents, they do tend to have more like just members looking at each other
Yeah, because no one else
in the music videos, like that's like the content that they're giving to their fans.
So you're saying as a fan, since the actual celebrities aren't allowed to date, you're looking toward to the music videos to like fill that, I don't
or
know,
like just like their
gossipy
content
drama.
all their not just music videos, but like their contents in general, because they're not like really interacting with the like opposite gender idols. Like all they can do is interact within their groups,
Oh, okay.
and like that's where I guess that's where like the queer baiting comes in, and like it's more, I guess it's more accessible to, yeah, I don't know.
I think the other problem is that for women specifically, they tend to fetishize relationships between two men.
Mm-hmm.
So like they
Like
might be
women
just
fans?
projecting, yeah, because there
Okay.
isn't another girl in the music video for them to be jealous of. It feels better to
Oh.
have the two men be together than have like a competing woman in
Yeah.
the situation or something.
It's also like the thought that like if there's a girl in the music video, then like they probably can't compare it to her because I don't know. But like but if it's like two members from the same group, then like they're, I don't know, in the fangirl's mind, they're like on equal level and like it's acceptable. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that explained it, but
Yeah. Or is one girl and like the 10 guys in the video are like chasing after her and it's like,
same girl.
what is this story? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Sally kind of answered my question about queer baiting when, like, while she was explaining her question or answer, I guess. Yeah, because like I didn't realize that that was a thing. I guess queer baiting from the K-pop industry, but yeah, I was more of just wondering like if they were doing that intentionally, like I guess as a, like Sally says, as a marketing scheme, or it's just how that happened. I guess just having
I
the
mean,
such big male groups.
yeah, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg thing. Like, were
Yeah.
they performing like queer context before, or did the fans like rile them up and like get the companies more motivation to put it forward? I mean, there's things that are like culturally specific, like, you know, skinship is more acceptable in,
What is skinship?
Like
it's just like
touching each other.
touching or
Oh,
like
okay.
friendly between people.
Mm-hmm.
And is like more acceptable in the K-pop sphere, or like close friendships between people of the same gender. I think that's the appeal because they see like people of a group be close and form bonds, and that's the appeal of like watching their friendship or like watching their interactions, which makes like a ripe feeding ground to shipping because the
Yeah.
interactions are so I guess
They're like
close
so
to each other.
borderline
Yeah.
between platonic and romantic sometimes, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense when you think of it in the context of Western viewers or Western fans, because in Western media that like never happens. Or there's like sometimes bromances, but it's always like bromances. Like you have to put the emphasis on this, just platonic, but like sometimes you'll have male co-stars like acting as like buddy buddy and like, oh, I love this guy, but like no one takes that seriously. So I guess from that context, the skinship or the closeness of like K-drama, well, not K-drama, K-pop groups may seem like closer than we're used to, I guess. Yeah, it's interesting. Linda, now after your finally years of slaving away working on this paper, do you see do you see yourself doing more research in this realm or continued studies of like K-pop or like what now, I guess?
I mean, fandom itself has always been really interesting, but as you mentioned, slaving away, I feel like the ideas could have been imparted the same way if it was an academic journal, if it was like a blog article, or if it was some kind of article for a magazine or something. So I do want to keep writing, but I think the time and rigorousness and the peer reviews were helpful in this instance because it validated what the ideas were. Because I think if I just put out an article by myself and didn't have the validation of my lab and my PI and the peer reviewers and this journal, I would have been like, are these ideas even real, or do these people really feel that way? But now that I've gotten like, I think validation from this, I feel better about just writing things more casually. Because then the information gets valued a lot faster, and then you can kind of communicate in a more casual way to your audience.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, I
Okay,
guess
Ming.
transition to the final leg of this triangle. Yeah, so basically we've talked about what do you call that? Like K-drama is like what? Like movie, like visual media.
Mhm.
And then Linda is more like auditory media in terms of her K-pop studies. And I am going to bring the literary media in terms of books. Um, I don't know. I guess I talk a lot about books on like offhandedly, like on this podcast, what I'm reading and stuff like that. But this year I've gotten really into like reading, I guess because I'm like out of school and I don't have to read for academics, but now I can really read for pleasure and what I want to. So, and because of quarantine, but I read 31 books this year so far.
Wow.
I looked at
Wow.
it on my, like, I keep track of it, and
Your Goodreads.
yeah, that's kind of crazy because when I look at my past years, it's like maybe like 4 or like 3 or something like that. But now that I'm out of school, I'm really like popping off. So I'm not gonna talk about all 31, but I've narrowed it down to like my top like 3 or 4. I can't choose one, so I just decided to narrow it down a little bit like that. And it's not a coincidence, but all of them are written by Asian or Asian American authors. I think because this year when I set out like in January, I set out an intention of like reading more books written by Asian or Asian Americans. So I guess I'll begin with my like 5th level. What do you call that? Like 4th choice book.
Or tier.
Oh, low
4th
tier.
Yeah, like it was really good. It made the top like 3 or 4, but it's called If I Had Your Face by Francis Cha. And okay, basically I've mentioned all these books to you before, but I'm going really in depth here. And so this book is contemporary fiction. So it does take place in contemporary Seoul, Korea. And it follows 5 women who live in the same apartment building. So that's basically how they're connected. And you find out later through the book that they all have the same connection to an orphanage as well. But it's kind of like given in bits and pieces because the book is told from each chapter, like switches, and it's from each woman's perspective. So you kind of learn their backstory as you go along. And I wrote all their kind of like personalities, but it's basically based off of the plastic surgery, like beauty industry in South Korea. That's another main theme of the book. And so there's one woman who has had many plastic surgeries, and so she's like been altered, and she works at it's called a salon room, but she works there and her job is to please like rich businessmen. So she entertains them, kind of like keeps them occupied, just accompanies them when they bring their friends and sometimes like business people to the rooms. And so the other women in the apartment, they like one of them wants to work there. She wants to get surgery on her face so she can look pretty and like join that room with the other person. And there's someone who is actually, she's mute. She doesn't speak because of a traumatic experience that happened in her like country hometown. And so she works as a hairdresser, but from her perspective, you like learn about the rest of their lives and kind of what happened to her. And basically, it's a really interesting book, not only because of the switching perspectives, but because none of the men in the book are good. Like they're all trash. And I don't know if that's refreshing to some, but for me, I really enjoyed that because it was told from the woman's perspectives. And it wasn't like sorry, Sally, it's not like a K-drama where they kind of all like are really close and they all get along. They're close, but in like a weird way where they're all there in Seoul to like be successful. Like they're all trying to climb up the ladder of success, but sometimes they have to be nasty towards each other, and sometimes they have to like deal with the real circumstances. And so basically it's kind of like how Parasite took a look at class and gender in Korea. Like this is kind of the same, I guess if you were to analyze it, it has that same kind of theme of what it takes to be quote unquote like famous in Korea. And even when they make choices that are like completely wrong, and like you as a reader know that they're making bad choices, you can't help but support them a little bit, like cheer them on because you want them to reach success. And so you kind of see how they don't necessarily have a friendship, but they all interact in their lives, like weave in a way. And unfortunately, this book is number like 5 on my list because it doesn't have a great, like, I wasn't satisfied by the ending, but I think that was the point. Like, the author was like, life isn't satisfying, so it shouldn't have a satisfying ending. But it's like what Linda likes to say is like a little slice of life, but in
It's a gritty reality.
a gritty way, like not in a wholesome way. It's like a real look at it. And it was the first time I've heard of like salon rooms in Korea. And I know that's I knew that plastic surgery was common, but yeah, it was a whole new like world to me. So I really recommend this book. And I pulled out quotes from each of my books that I'll recommend. So this quote that I pulled out really speaks to the meat of the book, and it's basic human nature, this need to look down on someone to feel better about yourself. That's the quote.
I mean,
That's true.
facts.
Yeah, it kind of like summarizes the book. So yeah, I would recommend it to actually both of you because I feel like you would both get a lot out of it, but like in different ways, I guess.
In
Okay.
what way?
Maybe I'll check it out. It does sound interesting.
In a way that like, I don't know, Sally likes to see like growth and like the way like people, the development you kept talking about. And it kind of has that, but some of them still stay like pretty miserable people, but you kind of see how their lives do progress a little bit. And then Linda, it has all that like deep analysis,
Slice of life.
I guess. Yeah. Oh, and the slice of life. But yeah, the more of the critiquing angle, I guess. So yeah. I guess I'll move on to my next book. This kind of switches it a little from contemporary soul to more of historical fiction, but also fantasy. It has a lot of fantastical elements. And it's The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. And this book was recommended by Stefan. He's like really into it and his sister's into it. And it was really interesting because the author is only like 2 or 3 years older than us. She went to Georgetown University, actually. So she is a local. I mean, now she like studies at Cambridge, so not that close anymore. But yeah, she brought her background and knowledge of Chinese history and I guess East Asian history in general to put together this kind of dystopian historical fiction novel. It has a lot of wuxia themes, so if you like that kind of fighting fantastical element, it has that in it as well. And there's a lot of obvious parallels to like Japan, China, and that like conflict that happens. And so if you know about that or the the fighting, the massacres that happen, it has that in the book, but all the countries have different names and stuff like that. So it focuses on a main character named Rin. And it's kind of like that classic, like rags to riches. She's a really poor girl who lives in the village, and then she tests into an entrance exam, and she gets into like this elite military academy. So she's learning how to fight and everything like that. And it has a lot of those kind of school elements where there's bullies and stuff like that. But then you find out that she's a shaman, and while at school, she learns how to connect with the gods. And one god in particular, and so how to like channel that energy. And it's really interesting again because I've never really learned that much about shamanism, and I didn't really know anything about that. So when it first like the plot kind of switches a little, it like threw me off because I was expecting just like a classic like school girl kind of plot. But yeah, so the elements of shamanism come in, and then there's an outbreak and a war starts. And so the second half of the book gets really into themes of like the ethics of war, and like they went to a military academy, but all of a sudden they're faced with like real combat and what it means to actually like kill someone or fight. And it has themes of guilt and like the personal responsibility you have to yourself and to your country. And it's really interesting. I read the summary, and it summarizes it by saying like, how does someone go from fighting for the oppressed, because Rin, as like a poor girl, she was always bullied, and could be seen as the one oppressed, and her country was oppressed by the other small like Japanese similar country, and then she later becomes the person that oppresses others and like is the one that people are fighting against. So it has a lot of that kind of theme. I don't know. It's really interesting, and I think Sally, you might like it a lot because it had a lot of those fantastical elements, but also with a lot of history in it as well.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I really recommend it. It's a long book. Like this one I think is like around 600 pages, but you flew through Cersei, so I'm sure you can get through this one.
I'll add it to my book list. My book list is gonna be your books.
Yeah, basically. I could just send you the notes.
Yes, please.
The quote that I pull from this is, "If you hold the fate of the country in your hands, you have accepted your obligation to your people, then your life ceases to be your own." So it's like the idea of like when you start fighting a war and you're the leader, you're igniting something that can't be taken back and you're responsible for like millions.
It's so crazy that someone close to our age wrote this whole book.
Yeah, it is a dense book, and it has a lot of there's like a few humorous passages, but it's kind of heavy at some points. Like it gets into like real things, even though it's so fantasy. But yeah, I recommend that book.
It sounds kind of like takes a lot of energy to read because it gets into the thing where you're like a small speck in like the masses, and it's something hard to come to terms with or like approach.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because it's not told from her perspective. Like she's not the one narrating it, but you do see her side of things a lot of times, and so you understand what she's dealing with. And I'm reading the second book right now.
There's more.
So, yeah, it's a trilogy.
Series?
Yeah, it's a trilogy.
Wow.
The third one just came out, but I'm reading the second one, and I'm not trying to spoil it, but it gets more into the idea of self-guilt, and there's themes of like addiction in it, and yeah, it's pretty heavy in this one, but I highly recommend it. Highly recommend. Okay, because we're running low on time, I'll just skip to my number one book, which surprisingly is not Cersei, even though I've talked a lot about it, and it's not Pachinko, which I was going to talk about, but the third book is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. And if that name sounds familiar, it should sound familiar because she's also the author of Little Fires Everywhere, which was like a big, what was it, HBO? Hulu.
Yeah.
Right? Hulu. It was a big Hulu like series. But I actually read her first book. This is the book she first wrote a while ago. And it's, again, another mystery kind of psychological thriller type of book. And unlike the other books that I mentioned, this one reads really quickly. Like I read this in under a day, like very fast. So you can like read it pretty quickly. But it focuses on a Chinese American family in the 1970s in like rural Ohio. So like your classic like picket fence
close to
town.
Yeah, I actually have this book on my list.
Ooh,
I never read it.
Maybe this will tempt you because it's a really, really good book. Yeah, so basically the family is composed of Marilyn, who is actually a white woman who she ignored the traditional roles her mom wanted to follow when she was growing up. She wanted to be a doctor, and like since it's set in the 1970s, Marilyn growing up would be like in the like 50s. So she's like trying to face that discrimination, go to med school until she meets her TA. And her TA is James, and he's a Chinese American professor teaching American history. And so eventually they fall in love.
But how is he a TA if he's a professor?
Well, he's a TA when they meet, and then he becomes like a professor.
Okay.
So they do like, I should explain this. They do like flashbacks, kind of like vignettes, where they go back to when they first met, but it's set when they're adults and he's a professor. And so they raise 3 kids who are obviously like half Chinese, half white, and the oldest son is like really ignored. He just wants to get out of the town and go to university. The middle sisters, who the book is all focused on, her name is Lydia, and she's like the perfect daughter. She does excellent in school. She's supposedly well liked. And then the younger daughter is like completely ignored. Like they literally, she hides under the table.
That's
and
so weird.
They forget about her.
I feel usually it's the middle kid that's ignored.
Right?
And like the oldest and youngest get most attention.
You find out later why she's the one that's favored. And this goes into like the whole themes of the story, because the whole plot of it is, this is not a spoiler, you find out in the first chapter that Lydia's body is found in the river or in the lake, like she drowned, and no one knows what happened to her. And so that's what the whole book is set around, this mystery of like what happened to Lydia. And so throughout the book, you, of course, there's a bad boy in the town that people suspect, but you find out that it's actually, I'm not going to spoil it, but a lot of it has to do with the family. And basically reviews called it like a family portrait of like what it's like to be Chinese American living in this white rural town, and the themes of like personal guilt and baggage behind bringing your kids there, and the parents' own experiences and guilt, and how that impacts how they raise their kids, especially Lydia, because there's a lot
Oh
of
my
like,
god, it's probably suicide, right? Oh yeah, don't say this.
there's a lot of burdens and expectations placed on her specifically, and you'll find out why as you keep reading. And I don't know, it was such a, like, I like a really good thriller and mystery, but it's not really about that at all. It's really about the family. And even though I didn't grow up in the 1970s like white Ohio town, I could
You
empathize
could've.
with them.
Well, yeah, you could have.
I could really like empathize with that feeling of like not belonging, but also like trying really hard to fit in. And yeah, it's so sad because it's one of those books where you can relate to literally everyone. Like everyone does things that are really bad in this book, but you can relate and understand why they did everything they did. And so I feel for the mom and the dad and the brother and the sister, even the bad boy. I feel for him, and it's just it like really like, this book was all over the place in terms of my emotions. So yeah, if you really like those types of books where there's missed opportunities, or like they could have said something to stop something, but like, and
I
then
feel like I'd be so frustrated.
yeah, it is a
Yeah.
frustrating book, but it's like it has a really good ending that I think makes it all worth it. So
Okay.
it's not like you're not left, feeling horrible. But yeah, I really recommend this book because it's told from each character's perspective as well. So you get into their head of why they did a certain thing, and you really like feel invested in this family. Anyway, Celeste is like such a great author that I would say forget about the Hulu series and just read her books.
Hulu series was good though.
Okay, yeah, that's true. That's true. It was good, but this book is so good. To conclude, I'll read the final quotes from my recommendations. It's from this book, and the quote is, "How had it begun? Question mark. Like everything with mothers and fathers, because of Lydia's mother and father, because of her mothers and fathers, mothers and fathers." So basically, it's saying that like everything has, what is it? An equal and opposite reaction. Like everything you do is kind of
Every
like
every reaction has a equal and
equal and
opposite
opposite reaction.
reaction. I don't know.
It's like whatever you do kind of like informs what happens next in the next generation and the generation after that. So
Was it like the butterfly effect or something?
well, it's not that like zoomed out, like it only goes back to like the parents when they were younger. So it's not like it's not like Pachinko where it's like a whole like 7 generations book, but it is kind of like you see how something that happened in the parents like adolescence like influenced why Lydia is dead now, basically. Like
Ming, we
there's
talk
a
about this at
connection.
we talk about this at work. It's something called like ghosts in the nursery, which is
What? Wait, what?
which is like the remnants of parents' experiences gets passed down subconsciously to the kid, whether you see it or not. And it's like this whole like psychoanalytic thing.
Wait,
So
yeah.
yeah.
I think that's the exact thing then, because well, that's interesting. I didn't know there was a term for that.
It's interesting that you talk about that because just today I was talking to my roommate. We were like, I guess, sharing our childhood traumas and like basically
really
talking about
bonding.
how our parents like raised us and like how we both went through kind of like strict parenting and like we had so many like activities to do and like expectations, I guess. But like, and then we were like, when we have children, like we're probably gonna be the same, even though we like as children we were like we hated it so much, but then as when we're parents, we're probably gonna repeat the same thing that our parents did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
That's kind of what I was thinking when I was reading this book, because it's really sad how the parents, they have good intentions behind everything they did, but like you're not the kid, so you can never understand like how it's impacting them. And as much as like, I don't know, I feel like when you get to the stage where you're a parent, you kind of forget maybe about like what it was like to be their age,
Yeah.
or
You can only
Or you don't
see
know how to
their
do anything
future.
otherwise.
yeah.
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 I don't know.
In conclusion, the book made me very hesitant to be a parent.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I guess like going back to the story aspect, I really like how Ming described what was so compelling about each book and like the characters, because I feel like all of them sound super heavy to read. It's like it'll take so much energy to get invested. I think it's because like I've been reading shonen manga for such a long time, or watching shonen anime or things like that, where every emotion is so easy to come by and like satisfaction is so easy to get. But I mean, as Ming exemplified, like the best emotional payoffs are kind of earned. And as like an adult, I feel like I'm regressing to escapism in K-pop or like in shonen anime where things are youthful and easy. But I think all of Ming's stories had this really, I think, rich elements of conflict and things like that that make a narrative worth it to really invest in. So I might read a book in the future.
What's the
Is that your
last time you read a
conclusion?
book?
I need to read. I will say though, there's a time and place for all of these different types of entertainment, because I love watching K-dramas, and like really that's one of my favorite things about K-dramas is how easily things come to it. Like the emotions are so obvious and you get so caught up very easily. But books, I guess like I get caught up in them as well, but like you said, Lynn, it takes more of like I have to like think, and it, like sometimes it hurts to think after work. But it's like there's a time and place for all these different types of media, and I think that's really great that we all brought so many recommendations that you all should check out, and they're all like Asian American, you know, put some more of that on your screen instead of the same like white boy with blonde hair.
Noah Centipede.
Ew.
He
It's
has
not
brown
blonde.
hair.
Oh,
But yeah,
well.
yeah. Maybe we can offer some other alternatives, and you should, if you're listening still, you should check out Linda's paper. Maybe read it thoroughly, you know, really get
We'll
into
link
that.
everything on our
Mhm.
website.
In citation form.
APA.
APA.